Hi. In the parlance of one cynical Brit, I am here to ask one question. WTF is going on at Annapurna Interactive, dude? Have you heard about this? Have you looked into this at all? Annapurna Interactive, all of the employees quit. They just quit at the same time. They were not laid off and they are not on strike. They quit all at once. Let's talk about why and what actually happened. Because I've been looking around and I've seen some confusion about parts of this. And I think it might be worth sort of trying to explain a bit more in depth. The big thing is Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg broke this story. All of the employees of Annapurna Interactive, which I have seen quoted as 25 people, and I have seen it quoted as about 24, they all walked out. What had been going on is there had been conversations between the owner of the company, one Megan Ellison, who Jason points out in his tweet and in his story on Bloomberg is the daughter of Larry Ellison, who was like a big CEO at Oracle for many years and made more money than anyone should ever have. I will say, I don't know Megan Ellison from anyone else, right? I've never met this person. I have no idea what this person is like. She could be a saint. She could be the worst human being on earth. I have no idea, and I don't care. To her credit, if you look at her Wikipedia page, she has a lengthy filmography as a producer and an executive producer, I guess, which, you know, depending on the project can be different, sometimes significantly different, as I understand it. Not a big movie guy, so don't necessarily quote me on that, but I think that's true. If you look at her filmography, every film on it has its own Wikipedia page, which I know is not exactly the most scientific measurement, but it does mean that like every movie this person has had a hand in is notable at least a little bit, right? There are plenty of movies that don't get their own Wikipedia page, plenty of games even. Speaking of video games, apparently there had been conversations going on between Nathan Gary, who was the president of Annapurna Interactive, and Megan Ellison, the owner of Annapurna Pictures, which is the parent company. Talk more about that in a second. There had been conversations going on to spin Annapurna Interactive off into its own thing. So I think what that means, because I've not seen it defined super well in any of these stories I've read, either the Bloomberg story or on GamesIndustry.biz or The Verge recapping it. I've not seen this defined super well. I think doing their own thing means becoming a studio separate from Annapurna Interactive and probably to some degree the influence of Megan Ellison. Whether that's what they set out to do purposefully was to get away from that person's influence, I couldn't tell you, and I don't know that that part of the story will really come out for some time, because to me, an entire company walking out probably is signs that there could be litigation about to happen. And if litigation happens, then everybody goes super quiet, doesn't share details, not a lot of tweets going to be going out of those people. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. But if I had to take a guess, I would say those people are hedging their bets just to be safe in case it does happen. Not a terrible plan, all things considered. Now, where this gets a little interesting and a little kind of confusing for some people, I think, is Annapurna was just in the news because they signed a deal with Remedy Entertainment, makers of fine video games such as Alan Wake 2, Control, Quantum Break. Do you remember that one? Quantum Break, that's good. They have signed a deal with Annapurna Pictures to produce film offshoots of their creative works. So what that could mean is like they're going to make a Alan Wake movie. They've not said that. They've not said specifically what they're going to make at all, but they could do something like that. They could do a Control TV series, something like that. Also, Annapurna is contributing money to support the development of Control 2, the sequel to Control, naturally, and an upcoming game that is currently in development. That sounds a little confusing because why is Annapurna Pictures putting money into video games when they have a video game arm? I don't know. I think that's interesting, but does that have something to do with why everyone walked out or why they wanted to be separate? I don't know. These things do line up in such a way that I think any normal person would go, oh, I wonder if those are related. So I'm kind of sitting here going, oh, I wonder if those are related. And I don't know. I don't have the answer on that. I think that's another thing we won't hear for a little bit. But I want to show people a little visual aid that I made to make this whole process a little bit easier to understand. Because the thing about Annapurna that makes it very easy to get confused about is that all of the arms of Annapurna are called Annapurna. Every arm of the company is called Annapurna something. It can get easy to let those wires cross. I made a visual aid. Let's go look at it. So if you look at my very well-crafted visual aid here, Annapurna Pictures is the parent company, and this is the company that is sort of owned by Megan Ellison, chairwoman and CEO. Those are different things, I guess. Why? To what end? I don't know. You know how corporate people are. It doesn't ever make sense. So Annapurna Pictures is the parent company. This is who signed the deal with Remedy Entertainment. You can imagine them over here. You know what? Let's just add it. So here, Remedy Entertainment, draw an indirect line to them, because they have signed a deal. That's how that works. They are not the same company. They have not merged. One does not own the other. Annapurna is putting money into Remedy, for Remedy to make games, and for Annapurna to have the rights to make film productions using properties that Remedy Entertainment owns, right? Makes sense so far. Annapurna Interactive is one of the child companies, perhaps subsidiary is the correct word, though I don't know if that's factually accurate, but I'm going to use the word subsidiary. Annapurna Interactive is one of 4 subsidiaries that make up Annapurna Pictures, which can also be confusing because Annapurna Pictures sounds like it would be one of the subsidiaries because all of them are called Annapurna Media. So there's Annapurna Interactive, Annapurna Animation, Annapurna TV, and Annapurna Theater. And you know that they're taking the theater part of the business seriously because they spell it like British people do. I feel like the parent company should just be called Annapurna at this point, but I don't make decisions like that, so whatever. Annapurna Interactive is a subsidiary of Annapurna Pictures. They wanted to eliminate this link, I suppose, to become their own independent company over here. Nathan Gary in charge and all of the people. Hooray, we're working there. That didn't work out. Negotiations fell through. That's how I've seen it quoted. Negotiations fell through. I feel like they had to fall through pretty hard for everyone to quit. Everyone left. They all left. This removal of this link did not occur. So the president, Nathan Gary, and a couple of the sort of like administrative figures quit. That was a few days ago, I believe. Okay, what happened yesterday is all of the employees quit. So they're just out of there, right? For a New York minute, no one worked at Annapurna Interactive. That has been changed. It seems like the image they are wanting to put out there is that there are people still working at the company. I don't know if those are people who have been moved from one of those other wings or hired on like immediately, like through a temp agency or something. It's probably safe to say that the executive didn't come in off the street, you know? But beyond that, I don't know where these people came from because the stories said there were 25 employees there and 25 people quit. I ain't no genius, but that equals 0 people. So there are sort of 2 big questions that come out of everyone in Annapurna Interactive. The first one is what happens to the Remedy Entertainment deal? And I think by and large, the answer is not much. Remedy is out there saying that this doesn't impact their thing at all, to which I say, sure it doesn't, buddy. Here, let's go over to main webcam. Let's go over to main webcam and we'll have chat, okay? All right, here we are. If the company you signed a deal with has 4 arms, right? And one of those arms is suddenly lopped off, essentially. Even if it wasn't the arm that was shaking your hand to make that deal, the person you are making the deal with, the company, is definitely affected by losing an arm. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, there's definitely going to be some impact on that. Things are going to slow down. They are going to be a little bit more cautious with spending for a second, I think. I think very natural reaction to this unprecedented thing that has happened, which is the entire staff of a video game company quitting. Also mid-development. That's another thing. We'll talk about that in a second. There's no way that doesn't have some impact on you. Is it going to change the terms of the Remedy deal? No, probably not. But it's definitely going to change, let's say, the pace of the Remedy deal. the sort of monthly roadmap that might be happening internally for the Remedy deal, that's 100% going to be impacted in some way. At the end of the day, does it really matter? I don't know. It's definitely going to be affected. There's no way it isn't. The other big question, though, is what happens to the companies that had deals with Annapurna Interactive specifically, to which I say it will probably be a case-by-case basis thing. So GamesIndustry.biz is reporting that Control 2, Wanderstop, and Mixtape among projects unaffected by Annapurna collapse. There has been a lot of reactionary, real quick statements out of some of the indie teams that are signed to work with Annapurna Interactive, because Annapurna Interactive is largely not a developer of video games, but a publisher of video. They've published some very notable indie games, many of which I have not played. I've heard good things, though, about many of them, including Donut County. I remember people being very into Donut County when Donut County came out, but I have not played it. They also did Outer Wilds, which I know I should have played it by now, and I just haven't. I know it's some sort of big, mysterious mind freak thing, like Chris Angel's gonna come out and just blow my mind. There are some games here you see I investigated that they published versions of, but they didn't really participate in the real development process of those games. Like, they were kind of done or already on the process. Like Gone Home here, they published that on Nintendo Switch. And Stray. Stray is the other big one. It's Stray and Outer Wilds, I think, are the big ones that are the very notable Annapurna Interactive. Now, as far as development goes, because I said we'd talk about this, they're only making Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth. And I should say, actually, they were only making Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, because some other people can come in and start working on this game. I don't think that game's going to come out, but I think everyone who had anything to do with it just quit. And while you could pull a team together and say, I guess we're going to figure this out because we're probably not going to have positive communication with the people who were working on this, and who knows what kind of documentation they have left behind, this game's not coming out. This Blade Runner game is not coming out. Don't know how far along it was. It didn't have a release date, which I think is very telling. So the talk out of the current president of Annapurna Interactive, Hector Sanchez, is apparently that these deals are going to be honored. That's interesting. We will see if they cash that check. I have no idea what kind of impact this is going to have on that company. I really want to hear what some people think about what happens now. Like, obviously some of these games come out and some of them have specifically said as much. Whatever the Stanley Parable guy is working on, that is apparently unaffected. Saying Control 2 is unaffected, but I don't think Annapurna Interactive was really involved in that. Again, I think that was Annapurna Pictures. Mixtape, which I'm interested in, they're saying is continuing. What's the quote here? There's a quote for Mixtape here in this GamesIndustry.biz article that I really liked. Appreciate all those who reached out. Mixtape continues. Like, okay. So some of these games are going to get made. Some of these games are maybe not going to get made, dude. I don't know. I think that the notable ones are going to come out. I'm really interested in what happens to Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth, even though we know nothing about that. Because, I mean, like, Blade Runner, Labyrinth, man, what? You put those together, I'm all in. And that's definitely do it. No, I like Blade Runner. I like the idea of there being a new Blade Runner game. If you would like to hear my thoughts on a different Blade Runner game, you could check out You Should Play Blade Runner. I think that this is a wacky time to be in video games. Dude, we've talked about it before on the channel in different contexts, and probably definitely will again. It's not been a great time to work in games. It's bad enough trying to cover games and work in games that way. Games media is not in a great place, but games themselves are in a real bad. If you've not been paying attention to the amount of layoff for basically the past 2 years, it's kind of crazy how many people have lost their jobs in the video game industry. And this story stands out because it's not a layoff, and also it is not a consequence of sort of a downturn in revenue, which is what we've seen. I think a lot of layoffs are reactionary. It's idiot corporate people being like, oh my God, we made so much money in 2020 and then we hired up so many people and now we can't keep that pace. What's going on? We have to let people go because these fools thought that the revenue uptick they saw because of a global pandemic that did arguably And the period of time where everyone was home and able to play video games way more, that period came and went. And that was what they were reacting to. This isn't that, though. This is 100% a workers thing. And I'm really curious to know more about the story. I want to know if there's more that's going to come out, or if that isn't going to happen for some amount of time. This could be some sort of thing, like I said, that could lead to litigation. Does that occur? I don't know. People are probably going to prepare themselves as if it were, which means they probably won't talk very much about what happened. Really, the only statement we have out of anybody at this time who was part of that, I think, is Nathan Gary speaking for the people who quit, saying that this was a very hard decision, which, like, yeah, I guess probably. Do you think that everyone was on the same page, or at some point do you think at least one of those people got peer pressured into quitting? Because at some point it's like, oh, 15 of the 25 of us are quitting. I guess I should too. Like, does that person exist? I would love to talk to that person. I would love to talk to the person who was sort of like, I guess solidarity, man. I don't know. I do need to work. Like, I would love to know if that person exists. I hope that someday when someone writes a not very popular book about this incident, I hope that that is the person who writes the book, because I need to hear this from a more middle ground perspective, because I think, like, the reporting on it is very light thus far, because there's not a lot to report on. In fact, me making a video sort of talking about the news is perhaps just also as poorly reactionary. I just genuinely want to hear from people who look at my YouTube videos what they think is going to happen. There's a lot of room for theorizing and hypothesizing, because there's not a lot of information. It's just everybody quit. The president quit, and then everybody else quit. I don't know. And Jason Schreier reminding us that Megan Ellison is Larry Ellison's daughter. Hey guys, I don't know if you know this, but this billionaire is related to this other billionaire, just so you're aware. Man, you're at like an 8. You got to bring it down to just a 7, just a little bit, just a tiny, just a smidge. I'm really curious how this one's going to go. And I would love to read some comments about what you guys think will happen. So please hit me with those. I would love to read those. And we'll see what happens. If something else crazy happens on this, and it very well might, then maybe we'll come back here and talk about it again. But for now, wow, man. Wow. All right, peace.